as promised, we are using the old Banina today, and I'm going to show you how to set it up for free motion embroidery. I'm going to turn this light off here. I can still use it without the light on because then you won't get that shimmery up and down thingy. If this is the first time that you've come across me, thank you very much for watching, and thank you for the others that all tend to come in anyway. My name is Anita and I am the owner of Ubrink Studio, and we're in West Norfolk, just outside of King's Lynn. Most people think that free motion embroidery is very, very difficult, but once you know how to set up your machine, and it doesn't matter if it's an old one like this or a very modern one, it's just a matter of practice, and that's all you need to do, practice. Different fabrics will work in different ways, and also different threads as well. So today we are using these threads, and if I can get that to focus in, you'll see it's called Isocord, and it's a variegated thread, which I love, and I like to have a whole selection of them all the time. So to set up the sewing machine, these machines have a number of feet with them. Basically, it'll either tell you it's an embroidery foot or it's a darning foot, and what we're doing is darning, but we're not darning in the traditional way. So you have something like this which is an open-toed foot, or you'll have something like this which is a closed foot. I prefer the closed feet, and there's already one on here. When I bought this machine, which I don't know how many people have had before me, it came with a whole load of feet, which I adore, and I've been playing with them all to see what they do over the years, and it never amazes me as to what you can do with some old feet in an old sewing machine. So don't write them off, and if it doesn't work, just get somebody to give it a good clean and to fix it up for you, and keep on working with it. So the settings for these machines are, at the moment, I have got this. I'm going to move this around so you can see, you can look at the window, there we go. Not that you want it to. I need to move this forward a bit. There we go. Okay. So we've got this set on 0, and we've got this set on 0 as well. And generally with these old machines I would tell you to start on that, but you may need to adjust it because they can be a little bit temperamental. And then as we go to the top, with this one it likes to be on zigzag here, but this here is on straight stitch. But if you bring it down a little bit, you can get a little bit of wave on your stitch as well, instead of the full zigzag, which is down here. And you'll find that you can have some fun with that too. So I'm just going to move the cameras back, and then we'll get it threaded up and start working on them. Okay, if I can get that back to where I had it, which took me a while to set it up. Oh, there we go, look at that, that's not so bad, is it? Today we are using Lutradur, which I'll explain to you is at the moment. So I'm going to thread the machine up, so you come through the back down to the front, and you would just thread it up as you would any normal machine. They tend to all have the same sort of across, down and up motion. I might have to put the light on so I can see what I'm doing. In this machine I have just changed the needle to one with a big eye. I usually use a top stitch needle in here because it seems to work best, but I've run out, so I've now put in a gold work needle for golden silky threads, so it has a massive eye, and we'll see how it works. I've got the same sort of thread underneath, just a different colour. Okay, so turn that off now so that you can actually see what I'm doing. And then we need to test it. So if we test it on a corner of here, this is Lutradur. You can see it's a sort of spun man-made fibre. It's absolutely brilliant, and I have drawn a flower on it. think, gosh, she's good, it's a stencil. So please don't think that at all. Okay, so you put your foot down to get you going. You always bring your threads up to the front. And as I'm just testing how this is going, I'm just going to run it up and down a bit. And it seems quite happy. So we'll take that off. And as you can see, that has stitched fine on both sides. No, oh, Anita, come on. Okay. So, Lutradur, it's a man-made fibre. And what's so brilliant about it is you can wet it, you can paint it, you can dye it. As you can see, you can draw on it as well. You can stitch into it with hands or machine stitch. It's up to you really how you do it. Then you can heat it and distress it. So I've got one here which I had already started on. As you can see, this petal, I was using different colour then and then decided to change my mind. Right, so I've got it in an embroidery hoop. Now I don't always use embroidery hoops, but if you're new to this, I recommend you do, and you decide which size you want on your embroidery hoop. It doesn't matter whether it's a big one or a small one, it's how you manage it. And normally if you're using an embroidery hoop, you will embroider from this side, but in a sewing machine we're embroidering in this side, so this will sit on the machine. So lift up your foot. With a banina you can lift them up a bit higher, the foot, then put it back down again. From where your starting point's going to be, bring your threads up. Lift that up and bring them up. Once you've got them up, you need to hold on to them when you first start. So I tend to hold that there as I'm stitching. Okay, and then stitch. As you can see, because I forgot to tell you, you need to put your feed dogs down, otherwise it's not going to work. Or if you've got a sewing machine where you have a little plate, some of them you can cover the feed dogs up and then start sewing over the top. So go around the edge first and then just colour in. And that is the first petal done. So snip that off there, bring that through, and as you can see, our petal's done, the first one. Okay, so what I'm going to do is whiz through a number of these, and I will just remind you, because more people are joining us now, so just as a reminder, we're using an old banina. This one I think is either very late 50s or very early 60s, I can't remember because the brain's gone. But it's a mechanical machine, so you can't break it, it can't go wrong, even if you break the needles, which I've done numerous times, especially when I'm stitching into bark. They just drop through to the bottom, and so long as you know it's there, you're okay. So bring this back in again. I'll go over this one that I already started with the thread earlier and then decided to change my mind to a different thread. Different colour was all I was going for. Hello, what's going on here? Hello, come on. Doesn't want to come through for some reason. We'll try that again, shall we? It's probably objecting. There we go. Because I've already started on it with another one. So hold on to your threads And if you're thinking she's wasting all that thread, I'm not. Have a pot down on the floor and it all goes into the pot when I'm doing this, and then I keep it and I use it for other things, so because you can use it for trapping in things and stitching over. That's that one finished. Now I am talking to you in real time because I've tried doing these videos where we haven't been in real time and just videoed them, and actually, although you can speed things up, I don't like that when I'm watching other people's videos, because I like to see what's happening, and if it's something's going wrong, I like to know about it, because then I can watch out for that for me as well. So we're now going to go on to the next petal, going round the outside first. Don't forget to think of your needle as a pencil or a pen, so we're drawing, believe it or not. And then when we finish drawing, we're colouring in. Loving this thread. Oh, I missed a bit, hang on. There we go. Okay, so as I was saying, we're drawing around the outlines. We're then colouring in the middle bit, the same as you would if you were drawing anything really, and then adding colour to it. So you have to imagine that your needle is a pen or a pencil or something along those lines. Okay, whatever you like to draw with really. You know, and this will help you if you're one of those people that doesn't like drawing, and that's me, I hate drawing. You know, this will help you get more confident about that. I find I don't have a problem when I'm drawing with a needle, but I do when if I think pencil, pen, brain doesn't like it. It's like a mental block, I think. So let's go on to the next one. Okay, don't forget, each time bring the thread up, put your foot back down again, and away you go. So this Lutradur that I'm using here is a heavyweight one. It comes in lots and lots of different weights. And Experimental Wednesday we're going to be using a lighter weight one. Though I have got some of this if anyone wants to have a go with the heavier stuff. But we're not doing this. We're going to be using expander print as well, and then you can do a bit of sewing into it. Okay, so on to the next one. the other thing you need to think about with free motion machining is, if you can drive a car, you can do this. It's all about hand and foot coordination. I tend to sew on a sewing machine without shoes because I feel I've got more control. When you're moving this backwards and forwards or sideways or going round in circles, the needle will go up and down depending on how much you've depressed that foot. If you're going to go really, really slow, the machine is going to think, I don't like this, and you may end up with snapped needles and snapped threads. So with your machine, you've got to work out what it's the happiest going at. This machine will go quite fast, or sometimes this machine will go a lot slower. It all depends on what you want to do, really. So we're going to just bring this up again, and then we're going to start doing the next petal. Not quite sure who's just come in or why. Oh, it looked like it was John. Don't know what he wanted. So round we go again. In case you don't know, John is my partner, and it looks like he's going to start up the lawnmower whilst we're filming, and if he does, I apologise straight away. Here we go. Now I ran that quite fast, as you will have noticed. But let me show you what happens if you run it slowly. As I come round to the next petal, so if I hold this here, and you'll see what happens. I can't do it actually. Let me try. I'll move the foot a bit. Let's see. I'm sorry, I can't run it slow. I think that's about as slow as I can go. Nice rainbow flower here, which I'm quite pleased about. What I'm going to do afterwards is heat it up so it all curls up. Here we go again. We're nearly there. Next one. done. So remember when we were talking about needles, this needle has got a big eye in it because it's a goldwork needle. For metallic threads, it's called a metallic needle. I don't know why I keep calling it goldwork. And I normally would use a top stitch needle because it prefers it for some reason. So even though your needles are designed for specific things, hello Judy, yes I have got Lutradur. I've got the lightweight one at the moment, and I have got heavyweight that's on order at the moment, so hopefully we'll be here in a day or two. So yes is the answer to that question. So Judy's asked if I'll be selling Lutradur in my shop. Yes. There, I managed to get it a bit slower. I don't know if you'll be able to see, but it makes the stitches a little bit more lumpy. Back to speeding it up. Go, so that's another petal done. You're welcome, Judy. And now for the next one. What I'm going to do in a minute is I'm going to link all these petals, because then I'm going to give this a blast of heat which will melt the Lutradur. You can, if you don't want to use a heat gun or a hairdryer on this, you can just whiz round it with a soldering iron, but the effects are very different. The soldering iron will just cut this out. If you use a heat gun or a hairdryer to give it a blast, you can melt it to the degree that you want to, and then you end up with a nice lacy effect, which is quite nice. And we've not got any more left to do. We've got the middle bit as well. This is a good way of practicing with your machine as well. So, because a simple design like this, and as I said right at the very beginning, you know, it's a stencil. I just drew round a stencil, that was all. So you can stamp on it. Did I put that down? Yes, I did. So using stamps, you can paint it. You can use watercolours or acrylics. My favourite thing to use on there is Koh-i-Noor, and I tend to use the dye-based palette rather than the watercolour palette. So if you're going to buy Koh-i-Noor palettes, you do need to check which one you're buying depending on what you want to use it for. So if you're talking about using it for sketchbooks, the watercolour one is fine. If you want it to be more permanent and on fabrics, I would recommend the dye-based one. Run out of thread underneath, so now you're going to get to see the underneath of my machine and how I can thread it back up again. So I already have bobbins ready for this. Now with this machine I don't slide this out because it's in this case, which drives me nuts, so I just tip it up. The bobbin is right at the very back. Just chuck it out and then make sure that we've got the new one ready and going in the right way. Okay, when you're doing your bobbins you should be able to do that without it running straight down. Okay, it's free running, but what we don't want is for it to hold. If you hold it up and it drops straight down, it will then be too loose and you'll end up with lots of loops, and that's not what you want. So we'll go back to where we sort of run out there and bring that up. And start again. We've got 3 more petals in the centre to do, and then we're done. Well, other than linking them together so they don't come undone when I burn it. Sorry about that noise. That is my phone, which I've got sitting over there. Last week we had a number of notifications coming up on here which made the most weirdest of noise. I am hoping my son did manage to switch that off for me. Another thing I'm going to point out to you is I don't have my threads on the machine itself. If I move this out of the way, I'll show you. I use a cone holder all the time for any threads that I've got. So if I just whiz that along a bit, you see my thread is on here on a cone holder, and I use that for every machine that I use, because I have discovered that the threads will go through a lot better if they're not on the machines, and that also applies, in my opinion, to modern machines as well. So I have one of those on each machine that I use, including sometimes the industrial machine, even though it's got its own cone holders. So that's my quirky bits, you see. Cone holders and stitching with no shoes on, barefooted. Because then I know that I've got more control over this machine, even though I'm not very good at doing it slow. But I imagined when I first started doing this, I was very slow at it. But you build your speed up as you go. Okay, there we go. So we're on the last petal. See how lovely these threads are. This is our flower. Rainbow colours. Let's just do the centre. Remember, always bring your threads up to the front and hold on to them. And don't let go of them until you're ready to cut them off. So, like with this one I'll show you. I'll start. I'm going to go in circles. I've stitched over these threads and I'll now snip them off and they're out of the way. And now all we've got to do is just go in circles. I'm bringing my centre out so that it meets the petals so that they're all going to be joined up. Just move my hands. There we have our flower. Okay, so we now have our flower all stitched, and now I'm going to zap it. So I will just get the I'm just putting my shoe back on and dumping the threads down there. I'll just get the heat gun. So this is a heat gun. if you've not come across one before. They don't all look like this. Some of them do look like hair dryers, and sometimes you can use a hair dryer. And you have to be very, very careful with them. Just plugging it in. Very, very careful with them. Never ever touch this end. Where are we? Never ever touch this end, because this is the hot end. Okay. But when we blast this, you're going to see how it changes. I've never done this on camera before, so I'm going to try and do it from the back, so hopefully you'll be able to see the effects. Okay, here we go. To move this out of the way of my fingers, because it is very hot. And there we have our Lutradur lacy flower. Now I can zap that and zap that and zap that till it falls out, or I can leave that like that and lay it onto another colour fabric. I don't know if it will work with the bee fabric, but let's see. So you get a, so you can see how that looks with a different fabric behind it. Okay. Anita, you're rubbish at this camera stuff, aren't you? There we go. The colours are lovely. Thank you, Judy. I really like these threads. They are lovely. Okay, so I'm now going to just continue zapping this so that it actually comes out. Hopefully, well, I'm not going to burn my fingers. Put that down there out of the way because it's very hot. And there we have our flower that we have machine stitched on Lutradur. And that can be used as a panel, or you can use it on anything really. You can continue zapping it if you want, so you take the rest of the Lutradur away, but I actually like the fact that it looks like it's got cobwebs on it. Okay, very lacy, very pretty. And there we go. So next week I think I might do a little bit more with Lutradur. Not sure, I think Wednesday. If it's after Experimental Wednesday, which I think, no, will be the day before. So we'll be the day before Experimental Wednesday, and I will show you what we're going to do on Experimental Wednesday. We will be using Lutradur and expander print to create things through stencils, and then we'll be stitching them onto backgrounds. So there you go. Thank you very much for watching, and thank you all for all of your lovely comments. Looks great. I wanted to see the difference of Lutradur and Tyvek, so thank you very much. You're welcome, Judy. Tyvek works in a very different way, so although it does melt the way this does, Tyvek tends to go bubbly and curl up, whereas this goes lacy much quicker. And this comes in different weights as well. So I know that Tyvek comes in either the paper or the fabric, but I think they both have different things. So you're welcome. Hello, Kathy. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Haven't heard from you for a while, Kathy. I hope you're okay. I suspect you're working very hard with your current workload. I'm sure is quite high. So I'm going to clear off now and leave you all in peace. And if you've been looking in the background over my shoulder, you'll see that the studio is in quite a mess. So I need to get it cleared up, ready for the things that are going on Friday here, because tomorrow I'm off to the NEC to a trade fair, and I'll see what they've got there. So thank you very much, and yes, all good. Thank you. I'm glad you're fine, Kathy. Thank you very much.